What is up, everybody? Welcome to Talkin BS. I'm your host, Steven Zamora. You can follow me on Twitter at ZamoraBSB. And today, I'm bringing you an off-season preview of one of my favorite Eastern Conference teams, the Toronto Raptors. Now, Toronto is coming off a season where they just traded longtime Raptor Pascal Siakam and OG Anunoby, and they're starting over, right? They're starting to build around Scotty Barnes and that young team, the young players that they acquired from the New York Knicks. That's Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett, and they got a bright future ahead of them. So, what we're going to do today is we're going to go over some weaknesses that the Raptors need to improve on, some tools that they have at their disposal to get better, and some must do's that they need to address before they can head any further into the future. We're going to address the three different ways that every team gets better in the offseason. That is one through the draft, that is through some trade options. So I'm going to throw some trades at you guys. Hopefully you like them, and some free agency options. Okay. Then at the end of everything, we're going to wrap it up with a nice rotation that hopefully you guys are really proud of and excited about heading into the next season. All right, so let's start with the weaknesses that you guys need to improve on. The Raptors were 25th in points allowed per game, 26th in points in the paint allowed per game, 24th in rebounding, 27th in opponent field goal percentage, 27th in three-point percentage, 26th in opponent shooting efficiency. So basically, some bad shooting numbers and some bad defensive numbers. So we're going to try to address those majorly in this offseason preview. Some tools you have at your disposal to get better. You have the 19th overall pick in the NBA draft. You have the 31st overall pick in the second round. So the first overall pick in the second round. Jakob Poeltl, Bruce Brown, Kelly Olynyk, and Chris Boucher contracts on the books to trade. You do have the full mid-level exception. You have up to 8 first-round picks in the first round and up to 5 second-round picks up until 2030. Could have up to $28 million if you want to pursue it. So that includes, letting go of Emmanuel Quickley, who is a restricted free agent, and that is letting Bruce Brown walk, who has a team option. All right, so before we could go any further, we need to address some things that the Raptors need to address before going any further. They need to decide if this is a full rebuild or if this is just going to be a retooling. We need to take the data and figure out how they want to build around Scotty Barnes. Then we're going to re-sign Emmanuel Quickley because he is a restricted free agent and give Scotty a max. Create some flexibility by moving some of the more expensive vets and find out, is it possible to find a number one scoring option? So next up, we're going to look at the draft. And right here, I got some different big boards for you. One provided by CBS, one provided by Tankathon, and the big one in the middle is provided by The Ringer. So if you look at The Ringer's comps, you'll notice that, the number one pick for them, Alexander Sarr, is compared to Triple J. You got Goran Dragic, Markelle Fultz, Harrison Barnes, Derek White. The list goes on, right? It's a bunch of role players. Nobody who is being compared to, all-star talents or like all-pro Hall of Fame guys or anything like that. This draft has been said to be weak, but to me, I don't think it's weak. I think what it is that this draft has a ton of role players, but not a lot of star players. So if you look at the second graphic, you'll see there's guys still, into the 20s that are compared to Kyle Anderson, Miles Turner, Tyreek Evans, Chris Middleton. Like there's a lot of really good players in this draft. But you're not going to find a Wemby. You're not going to find a Zion, right? Like these generational talents. What you are going to find, hopefully you could find a star with that 19th overall pick, that comes in and is a star in his role. But you're not going to find like a generational guy, right? With that 19th overall pick, if it was me and I was the GM of the Toronto Raptors, I would pick this kid from Indiana University, Kel Ware. He is 7'1", 230 pounds measured at the combine, 15, almost 16 points per game, 1.5 assists per game, and almost 10 boards a game. So, averaged almost a double-double on 58% from the field, 42% from three, and 63% from the free throw line. He is big, he is tall, he's athletic, he is a rim threat on both sides of the ball. He can defend the rim, and he is a rim runner. He has great shot mechanics. So even all the way out to the three-point line, this kid can hit his shots. 42% from three. It was low volume. I'm not going to sit here and tell you like that was, you know, he was a very consistent shooter. Like a 42% shooter is like very high. It was very low volume. I believe in his freshman year, he was like 26%. So he had a very good year shooting, taking, you know, into account that the 3-point line is also shorter in college, but his mechanics are there. He's a pretty good playmaker as well. Some of the negatives, though, he has been knocked for his hustle, his effort, um, his physicality. You know, going for rebounds and setting screens, stuff like that. Like he's been knocked for it, right? A lot of coaches and a lot of film guys have been like, you know, he doesn't want to get physical, you know, as physical as most big guys do, right? He has been bullied in college by guys around his size. He's also a bit turnover prone. He had the ball a lot in his hand a lot in Indiana. Um, and on defense, he's a little stiff. So he's not like an elite, you know, perimeter defender, which is, you know, hard to find when you got a guy that's 7'1", 230 pounds. But hopefully this rotation built around him. You know, you got guys like Scotty Barnes and RJ Barrett who are very good defenders. Hopefully he won't need to be able to, you know, he won't need to do that too often. I do love the pro comps here of Miles Turner. And one I found that I really like is LaMarcus Aldridge. Okay, so our next bit of business, since we're done with the draft, we're going to figure out some trade targets for the Raptors. So I came up with the list here. And what I was kind of thinking is guys who, like I said, who might be able to be that number one scoring option, but also guys that I don't want them to be outside of the timeline by too much, which is sort of a hard thing to do, right? Finding a 23-year-old, you know, super scorer is not something that a lot of teams are willing to give up on. Starting with Brandon Ingram from the Pelicans, you need some wing depth, and he is an elite scorer. I think he could fit well, especially with his playmaking. You can never have too much playmaking. Just like you can never have too much defense, you can never have too much playmaking between him and Barnes. And quickly, I think you'll have a lot of good passing on that team. Donovan Mitchell is my second option. Like I said, another young scorer. He's, you know, a little bit older, a little outside of your guys' timeline, and he kind of is dealing with the whole being in Cleveland. Does he really want to be there thing right now? So I don't know if Toronto is where he would want to be. It is decently close to New York, so maybe it's an option. Jeremy Grant is a guy from playing with Portland who can get you buckets, and he's a good, big, athletic wing. I think he can help you a lot on that front. Then we got some, you know, lower tier guys. We got Dorian Finney-Smith, who is going to be a spacer and defender exclusively. He is one of the best in the league at that, and he is affordable. Then at the very bottom, Yusuf Nurkic. I think at the end of the day, if worse comes to worse and you're just like, we want to trade Pirtle, well, Nurkic makes about the same money. And I think Nurkic would fit a little better in Toronto than Pirtle would, and Pirtle would fit a little bit better in Phoenix. I think that'd be an easy 1-for-1 swap, so that's why I have him in it. So the trade that I decided to come up with is we're sending Jakob Pirtle and Chris Boucher to the Oklahoma City Thunder in exchange for Josh Giddey, Kenrich Williams, and a 2025 first via Philadelphia. So what this does, in my opinion, is Oklahoma City jumps on this, first off, right? I think if you offer them Jakob Pirtle and Chris Boucher, it reinforces their front line and makes them a bigger threat in the West. So let's get that out of the way. On the Toronto front, you need a backup point guard, but Josh Giddey could be so much more than that. He is 6'8". He handles the ball really well. He's a very good passer and he's a very good defender. I understand he's had some legal issues, or, you know, at least semi-legal issues in the recent past, but could be just needing a new change of scenery. And, you know, I think at the end of the day, he's a really good prospect player, right? He's like 22 years old. If he hits and he learns how to shoot, you guys have a star in your hand. And, you know, 5 years from now, you could be sitting back thinking, man, I can't believe we only traded Jakob Pirtle, who, you know, we were trying to get rid of anyway, and Chris Boucher for Josh Giddey. And he ended up being a cornerstone for this team. You also add Kenrich Williams, who is, you know, can he hustle, right? Basically what I'm saying is if he came to Toronto, man, you guys are going to love him. He hustles for everything. He's a very good defender. He hits his open shots. He got lost in Oklahoma City's deep bench because they have a ton of wings and a ton of shooting and, you know, stuff like that. And he ended up getting lost in the shuffle, but he could be a very good player for you guys. And then throw in a 2025 first round pick. We don't know where Philadelphia is going to be in the next year. They had another disappointing first round exit. They end up being bad next year, or Embiid gets hurt. There's just a lot of ifs with that, so that could turn into a very good pick. Even if it doesn't, it's still a first, and you just add to the treasure trove. You need some more picks, add some more picks. So now we're gonna head into free agency. Okay. So I came up with a list of a good amount of free agents that I think would be very good options for the Raptors, starting with Bruce Brown, right? And Gary Trent Jr. Let's just go over those real quick. So Bruce is coming off of a team option with you guys. Personally, if it was me, and what I'm going to do in this exercise is I'm going to exercise that team option and I'm going to bring him back. He has like a 20-something million contract. It is an overpay, but there are teams who are willing to pay that. At the end of the day, you need some more depth, and the way I'm building this team, I think you guys could be a good playoff team in the East. I think you could be fighting for the, anywhere from that 4 to the 8 seed. And if you have a guy like Bruce Brown, you're going to need that. Then Gary Trent Jr. I think if you have the option to get Gary Trent Jr. and bring him back on a decent salary, like I said, Toronto, you guys need some more shooting. Gary Trent is one of the better shooters in the NBA. Plus, he fits the timeline. So, it wouldn't hurt to bring him back. Then let's look at these guards and wing players. So we got Malik Monk, Lonnie Walker, Russell Westbrook, Malik Beasley, Isaiah Joe, Sam Hauser. Basically, all these guys minus Russell Westbrook are good shooters. So you're going to need spacing. You're going to need that like guard 2-3 depth, right? And a lot of these guys can bring that. Very good shooting here. And, there's a lot of good shooters out in the free agent market. So, you might be able to pick one of those up. Russell Westbrook is more of like, you need a backup point guard. I'm not sure if Masai's into like, the big name chasing or whatever. But if he is, Russell Westbrook's there, and he's a good point guard, right? Plus he's affordable. I think you'd be able to get him. Then let's go into the bigs. Dario Saric, Mo Wagner, Kevin Love, Goga Batadze. They all, kind of different flavors, right? Saric is a good passer, outside shooter. Wagner is a good hustle guy, rebounder. Kevin Love, shooter, rebounder. Batadze, big guy, good defender. So it's basically what you want at that backup 5. A lot of options there. And then on the wings, we got Derek Jones Jr. and Cedi Osman. Same thing, kind of very different players. Derek Jones Jr., very athletic guy, can bring a lot of pop, a lot of vertical spacing to the Raptors. And then Cedi Osman's a very good outside threat, good shooter, smart guy, knows how to make an offense run and be like a good connective piece. Let's get into our final rotation. At the point guard, we got Emmanuel Quickley and Josh Giddey. At the 2 guard, we're going to have RJ Barrett and Grady Dick. At the 3, we're going to have Bruce Brown and Ochai Agbaji. Then we're going to have Scotty Barnes and Kenrich Williams at the 4, and Kelly Olynyk starting at the 5, backed up by Kelal Ware. Now, what I love about this is look at the guard rotation first, right? Quickley, Giddey, Barrett, and Dick. You could even go to your 3s, right? Your Bruce Brown and Ochai. All 6 of those guys can play anywhere on the court right there. You can put Bruce at the 1. You can put Giddey at the 3. You can put Grady Dick at the 3. All these guys can be all over the place, and they all complement each other to a certain degree. Then at your 4, you got Kenrich Williams, Scotty Barnes, right? Even those guys. Kenrich can probably move up and down the lineup. Scotty as well. Like everybody 1 through 4 can switch all over the place. Very switchable defense. With a guy like Scotty Barnes on your team and, RJ Barrett, who's a little more inconsistent as well, you're going to need that spacing. And, you bring back Kelly Olynyk, you bring Kelal Ware in, and you don't lose anything. Jakob Poeltl was a bit of a weird fit next to Scotty Barnes. Like I said, the spacing was bad. This opens up the floor a lot more, opens up lanes for RJ to get in there because RJ loves getting into the lane. Bruce Brown loves getting into the lane. And then like I said, you just got spacing all over the place. And then on defense, everybody can switch. I think it's just an awesome combo. And next year, like I said, I think you guys can very well in that Eastern Conference get up to the 4th seed. I think it's very possible, especially with this lineup. Like I said, you got so much versatility everywhere. And I can see a huge improvement with this. And the cool thing is like it has such a bright future too, right? You got Kelal Ware and Josh Giddey in there who are, under 21 years old, 22 years old. And then Scotty, RJ, quickly. All those guys are 23, 24 years old. And if things don't work out, you have a 20-something million trade chip in Bruce Brown that every championship team wants. So, you got that waiting there too. So, win or lose, you guys are set. And I think this works out great for you. If you like it as much as I do, please like the channel, subscribe to the channel. I would appreciate it so much. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for sticking around for the entire video. Y'all are amazing. Talking BS, we out.